The title of our video this week is Flips and Flops. We'll describe what that means in a moment, but first, please take a moment to subscribe to LilyTube and hit the bell to receive notifications. This video has been funded by Loans by Vicky, the best loan officer around. If you've been interested in buying a home recently, Vicky's the right pick for you. She makes things easy and communication effortless. With access to dozens of lenders, it's no surprise that she has the best rates we've seen. Loans by Vicky, the smoothest option to getting settled into the home of your dreams.
So we want to begin by defining what we mean by flips and flops.
And we don't mean flip-flops.
Right.
But these are for fun.
Right. But flip and flop are kind of two sides of the same thing, right? And we think of flop as negative. I mean, how many want to belly flop off the high dive? We think of someone flopping, meaning that they fail. But we also understand that sometimes a personality trait of a dating partner or of our own selves can have a positive and a negative element to it. And a lot depends on whether we're focusing on the flips or the flops.
And the flips, as opposed to the flops you were talking about, are where we have the positive quality, the positive side of that characteristic that we can bring forth and bring forward and focus on so that we can develop more of that part of the characteristics in ourselves. Jeff, when my kids were really young, before I ever met you, my oldest, he was maybe 5 or 6, I told him about this flips and flops thing. I don't know where I heard it, but it's kind of always stuck with me. And he got it. He started noticing all day long, Mom, that's a flop, huh? or Mom, that's a flip, right? Like he knew. He was young. So, that gives us all hope that we can all understand this very simple, but the significant factor to self-development and relationship development.
Now, I'll just tell you, this kid has always had a special place in my heart because he saw my flips and told his mom to date and marry me.
I don't know if he would agree with those exact words, but he was very instrumental in bringing us together, wasn't he?
He definitely was.
And luckily I have kids that mostly saw the flips in my dating partners and they were very supportive. Hey Jeff, could you give us some maybe general ideas of what flips and flops of the same characteristic could look like?
So it may be a matter of perspective whether your partner is really good with money or a tightwad. Really good with money is a flip. Being a tightwad is a flop. But they may be really coming from the same characteristic, and it's what you choose to see.
Exactly. And of course, there's things in both directions that, it can sometimes bother me when Jeff's late or when he misplaces things and he has to go looking for it for hours because he's so engrossed in what he's doing that he forgets those little simple things. But I love how he listens to me. I love how he focuses on what he's doing and that when he's with us, he's with us. So it's really a matter of which one am I going to focus more on? And that is going to be qualitatively different in our relationship depending on what I choose.
Right.
Well, and if you're married and you know that there's things that drive you crazy about your spouse, I bet you anything that if you look a little deeper, those exact same things that drive you absolutely crazy are also a blessing in your life. The flip side of that characteristic has blessed your life and your marriage.
Very true, Cathy. I can think of some of my own flips and flops. I know a lot of stuff about English and early American legal history, and I'm passionate about it. But I could go on and on about that to people who don't really care. So one is a flip, might make me more interesting to talk to for some people. For other people, it could get a little old.
I've always appreciated that you brought that knowledge into our home, and my kids are always enthralled with your stories, and we most often go to the internet and look up what you were saying just to make sure you're right, and you are always right. You always know.
Crazy stories too.
Yeah, so we see it as a flip in our family. As an example, one of my flip-flop characteristics is that I'm really clean and orderly. And I know that you really appreciate our clean home.
I do.
At first, when we were dating, you said you were intimidated by my home.
That's true.
But you enjoy it.
Yes.
So it's different than you thought it would be, because you thought, oh, she just must spend all day cleaning and organizing things, and it turned out not to be the case.
Right. There is an element of intentionality in this whole discussion of flips and flops, because I confess there are moments when Cathy is really sort of picky about how things are.
Well, let's be honest, not sort of picky. I'm
Very
really picky.
I try to tell myself in those moments when it kind of grinds my gears that, wait a minute, I like living in a clean house. And part of the reason it is that way is that Cathy sees everything.
Right. So flip and flop to seeing everything, right?
Right.
You know, in intentional courtship, we talk about flips and flops twice, along with many other golden nuggets. But we just wanted to bring this one thing out on video, and I thought maybe we'd reference some. All right, so page 248 for those who have a hardcover copy. Flips and flops are the characteristics that you're gonna find in each dating partner. We wanna consider those flip-flop factors, the strengths and the weaknesses that are often two sides of the same coin. So we actually share 3 examples of both of us, and I thought maybe I'd read mine and you could read yours.
Sure.
Okay. I'm organized and I keep my home in good shape. Flip. And because I stress about a long list of tasks required to produce that environment, I don't tolerate messes well. Flop. I'm really good about saving money and being responsible with finances. Flip. And although I'm more balanced now, I used to be so tight with money that it's negatively impacted past relationships and my enjoyment of life. Flop. I have a very strong sense of wanting good things for people I love. Flip. Which can sometimes lead to controlling behaviors. Flop.
Cathy wrote about me, Jeff is an intuitively sensitive person with a deep heart, caring deeply and connecting easily. Flip. And he hurts more than most people, getting hurt by things not meant to cause offense. Flop. That's my worst fault, folks. If you want me to be really open and authentic, that's my worst one. And Jeff is also a focused person who gives all his attention to whatever he is doing at the moment. Flip. And he is so wrapped up in that focus that he tends to lose track of time and things. Flop. Jeff takes his commitments seriously. Flip. And for the same reason, he is reluctant about making commitments. Very true. Flop.
So as you can see, when it comes to flips and flops, we can see in ourselves, in our partners, and in the people that we know and care about, the characteristics that have the positive and the negative, and we get to choose what we focus on.
Yes, Cathy, like I said earlier, intentionality is the most important thing, because most people have certain characteristics and there will be things we love about it. There will also be things that irritate and annoy us about it, and choosing which to focus on will determine in large measure the quality of your relationship.
Right, and if you're single and dating right now, these are the kinds of characteristics you want to pay attention to in your dating partners. Are they bringing out their strengths? Are they focusing on their flip sides? Are you seeing all of those positive qualities coming forth? And are you being honest with yourself about the flop side of those characteristics and what you're willing to live with in those flop tendencies that are going to come at some point or another, at least in small degrees? And are you willing to focus on the flips and recognize the blessings that are inherent in those characteristics? You know, Jeff, there was another point in this book a little earlier on. So that chapter that we were reading from is deciding who to date and eventually marry. And a little bit earlier on, we talk about dating, relationship, development, and progression. In our relationship development and progression chapter on page 188, we talk about flips and flops within relationships. And we give examples of how we have flips and flops in our relationship. So one question to ask when you're exploring a dating relationship is, are you both individually willing to work within the framework of your strengths as a couple? Or will you flop into the weaknesses and cause the relationship to become toxic or end? One example that Jeff and I have is we love to talk.
To each other.
Yeah. It's easy for us to connect deeply about a great many things. And this is one of my favorite things about us as a couple. And yet sometimes we stay up so late talking that the loss of sleep exacerbates health issues for me. And as a couple, are we being intentional enough to enjoy this as a strength without falling into the weakness that can, if we're not careful, cause distress?
Yeah, Cathy, I mean, I think in many aspects of our relationship, as with any relationship, there are things that we really enjoy that, if taken to excess, are that belly flop off the high dive.
You know, Jeff, in the same chapter, we talk about Dallin H. Oak's address at BYU. Our strengths can become our downfall.
Yeah, I was there the night he gave that.
Were you really?
I was.
Oh, yeah. So we have quite a bit of his talk right here quoted, at least the highlights anyway. We'll let our readers, read that. But I just wanted to say that Elder Oak specifically gives suggestions on not allowing our strengths to become our downfall. And I think he's really talking about these flip-flop factors.
Yeah, one of the examples that I liked the best in that talk was about a kid that was going to BYU. And he loved going up to the temple to worship there. He loved doing church service, and he became almost a de facto full-time church worker. And he failed out of college. And Elder Oaks said that's an example of how your strength, your desire to serve, but if you do that to the exclusion of your other stewardships, like doing what you came there for, which was to go to college and get an education, then that flip becomes a flop.
Right. And so balance.
Balance.
Yeah, that keeps coming to mind as we've been having this discussion, is finding balance in our characteristics so that we don't go to extremes.
Right.
Yeah. I think God really can help us explore the flips and the flops within ourselves and with our dating partners. He knows and can help us know the heart of the person that we're choosing.
Cathy, as we sort of wind up, I want to observe that there are two ways that we're talking about these flips and flops. One is in the way we perceive others. We see others and we may see the same characteristic in two different ways depending on whether our own mindset is positive or negative. There's something Stephen Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He said, we see the world not as it is, but as we are. And so as we look at our dating partners and their flips and flops, if we're seeing them in a positive light versus a negative light, that tells us something about our own frame of mind. Are we cynical? Are we negative about the people that we're meeting? That isn't to say that there aren't issues with certain people and you don't marry everyone you date. That's not advisable. But in general, do you have a talent for seeing the flip or the flop? So part of it is about how we see others. And then the second point is part of it is how we see ourselves. Do we focus on our own flips in order to make them manifest more and to bring out the strengths in our own personality and habits and so forth, so that we have better and happier outcomes in life?
Exactly. And in our book and throughout our podcasts and videos, if you've been watching or listening very long, you'll know that we encourage people to become the person they want to be with. And we're more likely to attract what we're building in ourselves.
Thanks for watching this video, friends. Let us know what you think about flips and flops. Do you have any personal experience with these to share? Did anything leap to mind? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and please remember that any time is a great time for more love in your life. Thank you for watching.